7 for Performance Tech Motorsports will be Howard Jacobs. Alongside him is car number 46, that's Jay Salmon for ODU Motorsports. In position number 23, car number 24, is Tim George for Eurosport Racing, and Paul LaHaye, car number 36 for One Motorsports. Ahead of him on the grid in 21st position is car number 86, that's Dave House for One Motorsports, teammate to Paul LaHaye. And then on the 10th row of the grid, on the outside, car number 22, Stephen Dawes for Performance Tech Motorsports. Last year's Masters champion, car number 21 for ODU Motorsports. Car number 31 will start in the 18th position, that's Michael Klemecki for Eurosport. Had a problem this morning in qualifying. Ahead of him is Robert Masson, who finished second in last year's Masters Championship in car number 11 for Performance Tech Motorsports. Ahead of him, despite having an engine failure in qualifying this morning, car number 34 for Eurosport Racing is a veteran, John Brownson. 15th position on the grid, Bart Wolf will start car number 28. That's the Wolf Motorsports entry. That, by the way, is one of only two that have two drivers in the cars during this 1.5 hour race. And on the pole position, what a great start in car number 18 for Performance Tech Motorsports is Will Schwab making his debut in the IMSA Prototype Challenge. 13th position, 23rd on the grid, Andy Pilgrim qualified the Gilbert LMP3 Racing Ligier, but it'll be Henry Gilbert that starts that car from the back of the grid. Jim Garrett in car number 42 for P1 Motorsports, and his teammate Matt Dickin ahead of him in car number 17. 10th on the grid, Rob Hoders for KTR Motorsports, and Charles Wicks in car number 7 for Charles Wicks Racing. That is another Ligier. Row 4 on the outside, Roman DeAngelis in the ANSA Motorsports Ligier. Alongside him, Cameron Castles in car number 75 for Performance Tech Motorsports, another Ligier. Two more Ligiers on the third row of the grid. Joel Janko will start car number 25 for P1 Motorsports, and Lance Wilsey in car number 33 for Extreme Speed Motorsports. Second row is Gary Gibson, car number 44, the AVE Motorsports AVE-Riley, and then ahead of him two Extreme Motorsports Ligiers, car number 30 of Chris Wright, number 3 of Michael Weldon on the outside of the front row, and on the pole position for 47 Motorsports making his debut in sports cars, young Austin McCusker in car number 47, that is a Norma M30.
Norma, one of just two that aren't Ligier in that top 13 as we go racing in 2018 and down towards the first corner, and already there's been a problem and a mistake before the season got underway from Lance Wilsey in the 33 car. Spun it on the out lap, coming out of the first corner on the warm-up lap, hit the wall on driver's left and has fallen back to the back of the field. Now, I didn't see if that car came into the pit lane. It has not. So they've obviously decided to start that car. He wasn't able to make his positions up as they go down to the west end of the circuit for the first time. And as predicted, the bigger engine cars getting their tyres up to temperature pretty well in cold conditions here. Chris Wright in the number 30 in third position, already falling down to the back of the field at 24. That is one of the four-cylinder cars, Tim George, and he had a spin on the infield as well. Adam.
He looped it coming out of the International Horseshoe, John. The first time of asking through, Dr. George didn't quite make it, but he managed to continue round with no problems. And coming off of NASCAR Turn 2, we already have a battle for the lead.
Side by side, this is what we were hoping for. Big drafting. The leader just about has the inside line, but has to hit the curb very hard into the first part of the bus stop.
And that's a change for the lead already. We're not even done with the first lap, and Michael Weldon leads it for Ligier, but Norma is fighting back in the hands of Austin McCusker,
who flips to the high side and gets a little bit of a run onto the tri-oval, the side-by-side, end of the first lap. It could be that McCusker will be shown as the leader at the end of the first lap, and people will think that nothing has changed since the start of the race. He is shown by 0.026 of a second, but he's having to go the long way around into the first corner and outbrakes himself down the inside. Weldon in the black and green car manages to cede back the position behind, still in third place, Wright, and then Gibson, the first of the Masters class runners in that AVE. That's the only other non-Ligier in that LMP3 class. In MPC, the Mazda Prototype Challenge class, it is Robert Masson that leads Stuart Retty in second place, the 11 and 21, and they're split by nothing at all. Less than a tenth of a second between those two as they went underneath us at the start of their, at the end of their first lap, the start of their second, and then Wyatt Schwab in third position, a couple of seconds further back, so a bit of a gap opening up.
And the two veterans there, Robert Masson and Stuart Retty, both starting some way down the order in the 17th and 19th positions respectively overall. They come across leading in MPC in 13th and 14th.
Oh, great shot that we've just had there with the big prototypes on the outside of the banking and still cars working their way around the infield.
Michael Weldon blew the exit of turn 6, and that's what allowed the 47 of Austin McCusker to retake the lead as they went through the banking portion of the track. Now the Ligier has to try and fight back as they exit the bus stop and continue around the lap. It's fighting on the portion where it's not necessarily stronger, so the Norma able to pull a little bit of a gap, but it is just that, a little bit of a gap.
So the battle further back down the field in the Prototype Challenge category. Masson in the 11 leads from the 21, Stuart Retty, then Wyatt Schwab. 86 is the next car up, and again we're seeing people who are very, very comfortable going to the high side here, Shane, using the aero. All of these cars making quite a large hole in the air, and you can use that, the draft, the slingshot being used perfectly there by Wyatt Schwab to go past past Robert Masson rather, and take the position.
And Dr. Robert Masson is a driver who really started coming into his own.
That was for the lead of MPC.
It was.
Where's Stuart Retty gone? He's dropped back.
Dropped down to third. Our MPC Masters champion from last year, Dr. Masson really gave that a run for its money, but he didn't come into form until the end of season. He is right on it from the beginning of the season, but again, he's got a youngster to do battle with.
But look behind the blue and white car of Stuart Retty, has dropped more than a second now. Lovely bit of overtaking by Wyatt Schwab in that Remedia sponsored Performance Tech Motorsports car from Millersville, and he's all of a sudden pulled a gap. So whatever's happened there halfway around the first lap, Shea, it seems that Wyatt Schwab has switched on.
His goal, his dream in life is to race in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship one day. The biggest race of the year, arguably for that, the Daytona 24 Hours. He's auditioning right now, John.
Top 6 at the front end of the field. The LMP3 cars are only 3.5 seconds. And Roman De Angelis, the man, one of the men who set alight another development series last year, the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA.
And Canada.
And Canada, yes, he did do both the challenges, didn't he? And Roman De Angelis in 5th position has just set the fastest first sector of anyone, and he pulls within a couple of seconds of the leaders, but he's got 3 cars between himself and the leader. He's got the number 44 of Gary Gibson, then Chris Wright, then the Weldon car, and then the pole sitter is back in the lead again. McCusker then, having claimed the first pole position in that number 47 Motorsports, 40 and 7.
We have our first pit caller ever of this series. It is the number 42 of Jim Garrett. He's with P1 Motorsports, sharing the car with Robbie Foley. He does come into their pit box. Now, it's too soon for the driver change.
I was going to say it.
And there is a mandated rule in the series. If you're going to take fuel, your minimum pit stop time is 4 minutes from when you cross the pit entrance line to when you cross the pit exit line. If you don't do fuel, you can take as long as you want. He's been stationary for a while. There's no fuel, no tires, so something bigger is going on with that car.
Yeah, the car's come to a dead stop. There's nobody over the wall to meet him. There's an IMSA official looking, and now somebody running up pit lane. One of the team members is opened the door, had something in hand there. Not sure what it was. I thought it was a helmet for one moment. And another team member, so he's gone, obviously he's gone to the wrong pit box because he's got people running up the pit lane to join him. Meantime, Spinner at the west end of the field. And that is that the 22? The 22 would be the Dawes car. Yes, it is.
Stephen Dawes.
Stephen Dawes has gone around under braking, or did he get a tap? I have to say how my attention was taken. The advantage stroke disadvantage of our IMSA broadcast booth here at Daytona International is that we can see pretty much all the track, and we have to remember to look at what the guys are going. Oh, that was on his own. That was on his own. And a nice bit of avoidance by... Now, who was that behind him? Was that the 86 car behind him at the time?
Dave House.
Dave House? It might have been. That was Dave House's colours, wasn't it? Blue and white.
Yeah, Stephen Dawes, who ran the full complement last year. His best finish came at Trois-Rivières, where he managed a 5th place. So he's not new to these cars, but definitely new to this track. And as somebody who began racing at the Jeff Gordon driving experience, coming to Daytona is a bit of a mecca.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he's also been a part-time crewman, hasn't he?
Yes.
At Performance Tech Motorsports the last 2 or 3 years as well. So really immersing himself in this sport is Stephen Dawes.
Meantime, at the front of the lead, man that was on pole position after a handful of laps, Austin McCusker from New York in that 47 car, run by 40 FORTY 7, the number 7 Motorsports. I think we're going to have to get used to seeing that name quite a lot this year. He's just done the fastest lap of the race, a 1:45.487, and has pulled a 1.5 second lead back to the number 3 of Michael Weldon in second place, who's got about the same gap now to Chris Wright in 3rd. Then Gary Gibson in the AVE, so it's Norma, Ligier, AVE, 47, 3, 30 and 44. Those are your top 4.
And our top 5 are only about 5 seconds apart total, so that's a very good gap for this portion of the race.
Roman De Angelis is closing up on Gary Gibson at the moment. He's just put another quick first sector of the lap, so De Angelis really likes that first sector, which takes you through the infield. It's the longest section of the track. It's 55, 56 seconds, or 53 seconds if you're Roman De Angelis, who has gone through and into 4th place whilst we were talking about him. The leader, meantime, breaks for the right-hander at the start of the infield, or close to the start of the infield. That's the International Horseshoe.
Howard Jacobs, another series staple, at least last year, has come into the pit lane and moves from the fast lane to the transition lane fairly early on.
Big lopper by Weldon. He's going off at the west end of the infield. That was happening a very long way out, and somehow he's kept it off the barriers on the outside of the tyre wall. Just misjudged his braking point. It's so quick through there, the downforce cars. He comes through the dog leg, through the kink, and does he get on the grass just a tiny bit? Maybe that just delayed his braking. And then he's locked up the left front Continental tyre, and from then on he's fighting a battle, and he's lucky in some respects there, Shea, because the grass is dry.
Yes.
It might be cold, but the grass is dry and he's got grip. Had that been any kind of damp, had it been earlier in the day or we'd had some rain, he'd have been into the tyre wall.
We've seen that in the very recent past.
Yes.
I'm thinking Rene Rast a few years back.
And that's Cameron Castles on Gibson, isn't it?
No, that is Michael Weldon battling against the AVE-Riley of Gary Gibson.
It is Gary Gibson's car, my apologies.
It's very close between those two. They're looking down the inside and up at the front of the field, so it's still Austin McCusker that leads. He set fastest lap race on every lap. Last time just a thousandth quicker than the previous lap, so really good, consistent pace at the front of the field by young Austin McCusker.
And we're already in the lapping traffic. Such is the pace of the LMP3 cars round the fast high banking here, and the MP6 have been slowed down a little since last year, it should be said.
They have, and certain adjustments have been made to try and vary the gap between the two classes of cars, so even though we have drivers returning to the MPC, it's not what they left.
Top 3 are together now with Roman De Angelis in the number 4, closing down on the leaders.
McCusker's pulled away. I think he got to jump through the traffic on that last lap. Was able to have all of a sudden a 5-second lead, isn't it?
No, he hasn't, Jeremy. That was a lap car. My apologies.
Right.
I was looking at.
No, because they were close.
Yeah.
But on that last lap, he pulled away a big advantage there. Did Austin McCusker, and Chris Wright now finds himself in 2nd place with that mistake or whatever by Michael Weldon. Resumes in the 5th position. So the guy starting on the outside of the front row in car number 3 now has some work to do.
Classic stuff already as the 2018 season gets underway earlier than ever as far as racing's concerned, and the gap is big. Oh, and a piece of bodywork or carbon fibre of some description. Now, was that flipped up by Austin McCusker in the lead, Norma, or did it fall from his racing car? That's the question. He's just put in the fastest second sector. That's from just out of the infield around, or the second half of the infield around to the breaking point or thereabouts for the bus stop. And as I say that, it's then usurped by Roman De Angelis and Chris Wright, and finally it goes, the fastest second sector goes to Michael Weldon.
We mentioned the crash off the start. Oh, here we get another look at that bit of bodywork that gets flipped up. That might have come off his car.
I think that came from underneath the car. He rode the entry curb, the left-hand inside curb, into the bus stop, which pushed the car, obviously leaned it over to the right-hand side, and I think that's part of the diffuser at the back of the car from the right rear of the car, possibly one of the vertical planes. Meantime, the battle for second is on. Roman De Angelis right up behind Chris Wright. De Angelis in the black with the orange striped LMP3 car. That's a Ligier. Exactly the same chassis and engine combination as the car in front. Takes a really tight exit from turn 5, which is the effective exit from the infield. That West End hairpin, brilliant manoeuvre. Brilliant manoeuvre. Sucked at Chris Wright into defending tight into turn number 6, and then got down the inside and powers away on the banking here at Daytona. Great move for second.
And Roman De Angelis has not raced here before. Chris Wright has. He has been here in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge in the past, so he knows the bankings, the little familiarities, the passing zones. For Roman De Angelis, this is a learning experience. And Roman last year, doing the Porsche GT3 Cup, as you mentioned, John, had a lot of new tracks. Well, he got, let's see, 8 wins in the US last year. Not bad for that youngster.
Oh, but it looks very much as though Roman De Angelis was held up coming out of the bus stop, and a spin for the 42.
Jim Garrett again.
And he's dropped all the way down already to 24th position. The very patriotic red, white and blue Ligier.
Ooh, big lockup.
Did he get the left rear Continental right off the circuit there? Because the right front tyre was pawing the air going into the West End. Now, I think he may have damaged his rear suspension there. That car looks like it's sitting down on the left-hand side as he pulls away. Maybe not.
It was going sideways for a very long time, though, John, so at the very least, he's going to be bouncing around in the car every lap.
Nothing worse. He's moving again. That hasn't done his position any good at all. It's a change of season format, a transfer of the format from sprint to endurance racing here for the IMSA Prototype Challenge. And this year, an hour and 45 minutes here and 2 drivers. And the drive times here?
Minimum 40 minutes.
40 minutes,
Minimum
yeah.
40. And there's an interesting little wrinkle with this. If we get a full course caution, you can't come into the, well, you can come into the pit lane, but you can't change drivers.
The pit lane will not open
so
under
you can't
caution.
come into the pit lane.
If you come in, it is emergency services rules. So the only reasons you better come in the pit lane are because you have no fuel or you don't have enough fuel to make it around one more time. Now, when we go to a caution, if we go to a caution, I should say, there will be a wave around procedure, but there will not be a follow-up pass around because we're not opening the pits. So that throws a wrench into things. If the caution comes around 40 minutes, you're not going to see people diving into pit lane like you do in our other series.
Okay, so the first quarter of an hour of the 2018 IMSA season is complete. And looking carefully as the leader, Austin McCusker, goes by to the right rear of that car, and I think there's something missing there.
The left rear looks like there's a little bit more light shining through it than the right rear.
So maybe that was when he came off the curb then, coming through the International Horseshoe now. Let's have another look.
I think it was the turn-in curb to the bus stop that damaged it, which would have been the left rear.
It's not slowing him down. A 45.5 last time around was still faster than any of the other LMP3 cars. Still leading in the MPC category, by the way. Wyatt Schwab from Stuart Retty now has dropped 5 seconds, and he's under pressure from Robert Masson, recovering in that number 11 car.
Well,
oh no, that's the other way around. Retty's gone by him.
Indeed. I mean, there was literally side by side as they came across the line on that last lap. I mean, there was inches between them, absolutely no to tell. Meanwhile, Wyatt Schwab, the youngster there, making his professional debut, is doing a fabulous job. He has gone. He's the only, really the only youngster in the NPC cars this season. But he's got his eyes set on a future in the sport. And talking of people having an eye on a future in the sport, Jay Howard, who runs a very successful team in the Formula 4 Championship over here, and Jay Howard is a former USF 2000 champion, a champion in Indy Lights, raced in IndyCar and Indy 500. He has bought two Norma LMP3 cars, and he hopes to be debuting those maybe in the next round of the championship.
There's drama here at the front of the field early on in the 2018 season, because that 47 car of Austin McCusker, which he shares with David True, the Swiss driver, Hop Swiss, or has a Swiss license at least, I'm contractually obliged to say Hop Swiss at that point for my mother-in-law. And that has got damage to the left rear. The eagle eyes of Shea Adam spotted that a couple of laps ago, now confirmed as off has gone the number 25.
Joel Janko.
And
that's along the backstretch, isn't it?
Running in 7th position. That's the car that Kenton Cook will take over later on.
And Kenton's going to have a lot of work to do. That was coming out of the bus stop. And just too much curb on the penultimate part, the last right-handed part, and got airborne, and again damage to the rear right-hand side of that car when the car hit the curbs. So these extremely extended aerodynamic diffuser parts behind the rear wheels are proving, Shea, to be a little bit precarious as far as damage is concerned if you start riding some of the higher curbs.
Well, and speaking of precarious, the location of the rear splitter piece that came off of Joel Janko's car is still on the racing line in the bus stop. This could cause our first full course caution of the season. But yes, that portion of the car is particularly susceptible to damage if you take too much curb, which we have seen in the past, as we have a pass right through the tri-oval. Man, that's fun to see with the NPC cars.
Excuse me, Shea, to say that's the battle for second place.
Yes, it is.
Which Michael Klemecki just passed both of those two guys we were talking about a few moments ago.
Well, Michael Klemecki's now scored as the leader, so that was the battle for the lead all of a sudden.
And where's number 18? He's in the pit lane.
Yes. So Schwab into the pit lane.
With a problem.
With a big problem.
Oh my goodness, look at the damage to the front of that car. The whole of the left front is gone. The 18 car has hit something. Now, did it hit the wall or did it hit another car?
Be fairly hard to hit on the left side of the wall here.
Yeah, and continue unless you were going backwards. And I think that front suspension looks deranged.
Yep.
They've pulled up. I've got the binoculars on it, but it's on the far side. But fortunately, our TV pictures are picking it up. IMSA Radio and TV together here at Daytona for the first round. The Scouts of America 1 hour 45-minute challenge for the IMSA prototypes presented by Mazda. Oh, there's a certain amount of resignation. Oh dear, is that a bit of inexperience, Jeremy, do you think, from the young man?
I don't know what happened out.
He was 5 seconds up on the road, wasn't he?
At least, I know he was a good bit more than that, I think.
It was not a puncture, though. That is important to note, because the Continental is still in perfect shape. The crew guys were actually brushing it off to see what condition it was in. But we now have Wyatt Schwab in the pits. Jim Garrett made his way back in the 42. And Howard Jacobs in the 77 is still in the pit lane, having come in on lap 4.
That's how it stands with an hour and 24 minutes. How good is that? An hour and 24 minutes still to go. The leader, Austin McCusker, then in the 47. Round the high side, over to our left. As he comes onto the tri-oval, still that cheese wedge almost at the back of the left rear wheel. Looks like something you'd win in Trivial Pursuit and put into your little collector. It used to be called the legality panel on prototypes because there was a regulation that said it had to be there so that you couldn't see the back wheel from behind the car, and it holds the rear lights on the Norma. And IMSA will be keeping a very close eye on that because that's a substantial piece of bodywork. If that was to come off, it would be a danger to other drivers.
And if it starts to come loose, it would warrant the meatball flag.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be a concern because at Daytona,
speeds are so high.
Exactly.
You can't afford to hit that. Roman De Angelis now 8.6 seconds away in second position. Remember that. But a new fastest lap last time around by McCusker at the head of the field. 1:24. 1:45.4 against a 45.8 from Roman De Angelis, who's now 2 seconds ahead of Michael Weldon. 47.4 and 3, your top three, separated by 10.5 seconds. Chris Wright is another 10th further back in 4th position in number 30, then a big gap of 15 seconds back to Gary Gibson, the best of the Masters runners.
Wyatt Schwab is leaving the pit lane, so they have repaired that car to the fitness of the marshals and sent him back out.
Well, I'd be very surprised if he hadn't bent something on the inside of that car. Maybe it was just bodywork damage then, but a substantial hit nevertheless. Michael Weldon puts in the fastest first sector as the cars stream through. Beautiful day today. That lovely light that you get at this time of the year with the sun out, barely any cloud. Been a bit chilly down towards freezing point in early morning.
Bit chilly?
I've just come from the UK, Jeremy. It's been a bit chilly. You're a California boy now.
It's been freezing. It's been winter coat
It's
weather.
been just above freezing, actually, to be literal.
There was ice on the car the other morning.
There's that battle for second place still continuing now with Roman De Angelis. Michael Weldon in the 3rd position in car number 3. That's the car that started on the front row. Ran in 2nd place, only a second or so behind McCusker for the first 4 laps. Then had that spin, is now working his way back up into 3rd place and has closed up onto the tail now of Michael De Angelis. And both of those just passed the MPC pace setter now, which is Michael Klemecki. Michael had problems this morning in qualifying in that car. He was fastest yesterday in the practice session, but has come on strong now in this race and beginning to move his way forward.
New fastest lap of the race, and it is Michael Weldon in 3rd position of 44.7. First, is that the first lap we've seen down in the 44s? I think it is.
Oh yes.
As Austin McCusker does his fastest lap of 45.2, so that's nearly half a second slower. That's a cracking lap by Weldon. I wonder if he got a little drag there from De Angelis, who's only half a second or so ahead of him, and that is a gap that's going to come down very quickly if he starts putting in laps at that time. That was, well, De Angelis all of a sudden is only 3/4 of a second ahead of Weldon, and Weldon is on a charge.
He certainly is, and from McCusker, the race leader, he just had his best lap of the race on that lap as well, and it was what, not half a second he lost to the 3rd place car, Michael Weldon, on the actual racetrack.
I'm loving this. These cars look great on the high banks. Here comes the battle for second around a couple of MPC cars, and Weldon is closing in. There's no doubt the black and orange car, almost like a Coast Guard livery with that orange stripe on the side of Roman De Angelis' black machine as he comes underneath us in the Ligier, and then the green and black similar car, and then with this right there, there's no need for a stopwatch now as Weldon closes in under braking. Now, has De Angelis got problems here? A very accomplished young racing driver, albeit in these prototypes with the high downforce for the first time, being locked up from the 3rd place car of Weldon as they go round the leader in MPC, the blue and white open top car of Michael Klemecki, and they have managed to both get through. And if anything, I think, Shea, that Mike Weldon just dropped back a little bit. Oh, I say that, he's very good on the brakes, isn't he?
He is, and that's what caught him out going into the International Horseshoe, is he thought he was a little better on the brakes than he was. But no, he has to share this car, so his drive time will elapse. Roman De Angelis is the only pilot of the number 4 car. How will that play into effect later in the race? It's not mattering right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. The drivers do have to get out the cars when they are being refueled, though.
Yes.
Even if they're the closed-top cars.
The MPCs, the drivers have to get out of the car.
That makes sense,
even if they're by. Yes.
That's an open top car. That's sensible safety. I like that. And remember, there is a statutory minimum pit lane time. From pit in to pit out is 4
minutes. It was 3.5 minutes before the SSR came out. And then they decided that they wanted to lengthen it another 30 seconds for safety.
SSR supplementary statutory regulations, that will change event by event. And one of the reasons that was changed was because IMSA looked at the refill time on the fueling for the LMP3 cars and decided that adding another 30 seconds on, they don't want anybody rushing doing anything, and They don't want anybody trying to make mistakes. You're changing drivers, you're belting people in, and a place around here, it's got to be done properly.
And in MPC, having the driver get out of the car, as soon as the fueling is done, you want that time remaining.
Correct.
That you have to still be in the pit lane.
That's
So take your time to put the belts back on. Don't rush anything.
Yeah, I like that. I like that in a series like this. We know that you can save time in pit stops, but for the most part, you know, these are guys who are making their way through racing or still enjoying their racing, and there's no need to put excess pressure on and have them try and steal seconds and be fastening belts on the way down the pit lane. There's nothing worse than that. So this battle for second place now in the overall and in LMP3 goes back out onto the Speedway banking. And Romain De Angelis, who was pretty spectacular in the gold category for the slightly older specification cars in Porsche last year, didn't have a lot of luck.
Spinner in the International Horseshoe.
Rob Hoders, is that, I think?
It was, but he managed not to hit anyone or anything, so a very good catch.
Yeah,
He recovers.
He and Lance Wilson, number 33 car, that's been even on the pace lap, they're having a great little battle there. That was for 7th and 8th positions. And Rob Hoders has done some Lamborghini racing the last couple of years.
Great catch by our replay team, trying to go down the inside of the 33 cars. Jeremy was saying they were battling after the 33 hit the wall on the formation lap, let's remind you, in the hands of its driver.
Change for second place as they head down towards turn 1. As Michael Weldon's now found a way past Roman De Angelis. Roman De Angelis, I believe, is going to be concentrating on the Porsches this season. So this is just a one-off drive at the moment in that ANSA Motorsports car number 4, but still doing a really good job for his first time in a prototype, the youngster from Belle River in Ontario, Canada.
Rob Hodis has recovered nicely, getting back in the groove of things, handing over to Sean Rahal.
8th position for that car, with the battle with the 33 continuing, and that Lance Wilsey car has now just taken a little bit of an advantage. McCusker puts another quick lap in for him, not the fastest lap there is, but his fastest lap, just knocking on the door of the 145.0, not quite down to the 44s yet. No,
but been super consistent, isn't he? And every other lap, pretty much, he's turning a better lap, a better personal lap, and that's enabled him now to pull out, extend that lead margin now to over 10 seconds, John.
Yeah, despite the fact that Michael Weldon was doing quicker laps once in a while than the leader. And he's actually, I mean, he was further back than that, but now he's got past Romain De Angelis. We'll have to keep an eye on that gap. But the gap first to second now up to 11 seconds. Romain De Angelis is just hanging on to the back of that number 3 car. So 47, 3 and 4 are your top 3. And that battle for second on the banking again with the dark red Ligier.
That would be the AVE-Riley of Gary Gibson.
So
battle for 5th.
That's the battle for 5th position.
With Cameron Castles.
Cameron Castles, yeah. Steadily working his way through the field in the 75 car.
I'm not surprised that the gap has gone out between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, because 2nd and 3rd were battling against each other. That always takes speed off and allows time for the leader. But the gap is growing as Michael Weldon puts in the fastest Sector 1 time. It's not enough, though. The gap is now 12 seconds from 1st to 2nd.
Yeah, but once he's been released, it'll be interesting to see how he gets that going. This battle for 5th position, the AVE-Riley comes towards us now. The only AVE-Riley in the field, with Gary Gibson down into the first corner, and Cameron Castles in the black and red Ligier number 75. He's driving that on his own for Performance Tech Motorsports. All of the cars on Continental tyres, of course. And Cameron Castles, then I just wonder what the strategy will be and how these guys are managing their fuel, managing their Continental tyres before they have to come in, and where they're expecting to do the race. We're still, what, 10 minutes or so away from getting the 40-minute minimum that each driver has to do, and then it'll be a question of how fast the 2 driver cars, how quickly after that they want to come in, how soon after that will come in, because the pit stops, as we know, are all going to be 4 minutes. I suppose if you're driving on your own, you're not waiting for a yellow flag, so it doesn't matter. What you're doing is feeling out the tyres. I presume everybody will put some tyres on it. We've not seen this before.
I was talking to some of the teams this morning, and they're not sure.
Well,
some are planning or were planning on it, and some weren't. So we'll see how that transpires. Michael Weldon, another good lap there. The first two cars, almost identical laps, 1 minute 45.2 for Austin McCusker, who now leads Handley, is now working his way through some of the LMP3 traffic. He's working with past Matt Dickin, car number 17 on that lap. Matt Dickin running in the 11th place overall. McCusker's lead now is over 12 seconds.
Matt Dickin, who will be handing over to his longtime driving partner and coach, Corey Lewis, a little bit later. Another one of the P1 Motorsports cars. Now, they have 3 cars under their umbrella, all LMP3 Ligiers, so they can split the strategy if they want. They could try tires on one for this race, no tires, and then figure out if it'll be more useful for Sebring.
Here comes Cameron Castles right up into the slipstream, coming down in the International Horseshoe, down the inside driver's left. Ooh. He's very decisive though. He made that move early. He stuck his car into the gap and made sure that Gary Gibson could see him coming. And I think that's so important here, because you're doing a lot of hard braking very late with these downforce cars. And Gary saw that, gave him room. Good driving by both. Yeah,
hugely experienced is Gary Gibson. Been around the sport a long time, does 72 previous starts just in this championship. So it goes back a long, long way. He's never won a race, but had 9 second-place finishes over his career in this series. That was a great pass.
He set that up coming out of the first corner, Shea, didn't he? Stayed to the right-hand side through that little kink. And at that point, there was no real option for Gary unless he just turned down on him, and that would have been disaster for both.
Exactly, and for Cameron Castles, he's raced here before. He knows how it's worked. He won here last year, not in this series, but he knows Daytona. That's an advantage for Cameron. Gary Gibson knows the series, but doesn't know Daytona.
Yeah. Very good point. Meanwhile, in NPC, Michael Klemecki, having worked his way through into the lead, is now being closed on again by Robert Masson, who turned his best lap on the last time round. This time, as they came across to complete their 17th lap, Michael Klemecki in car number 31. And that battle, by the way, was just ahead of the 2 prototypes that we were watching that battle for a few moments ago.
Fifth position.
Yeah, 5th position. Car number 31, he's just turned his best lap in response, so that battle is heating up ahead of NPC in 12th, 13th and 14th places.
Yeah, and that's just a second or so, 1.2 seconds as they went across the line underneath our feet. The blue and white number 31 is the leader. There's an hour and 10 minutes of the 1 hour and 45 Scouts of America IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda. Season opener here at Daytona International Speedway. John Hindhaugh, Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam watching the action for you. And that blue little screamer of an engine, and the next open top car back is Robert Masson. He's gradually been closing in, and both of those drivers now turning their quickest laps of the race, and they've got faster LMP3 cars coming through. Remember, 2 classes here. The closed, it's easy to spot, even for us. Closed cockpit cars are the big 5-litre V8 LMP3 cars running to the LMP3 Global Formula with 3 different chassis manufacturers, Ligier being the most predominant, and then AVE and Norma, each with a chassis apiece here, a car apiece. The MPC's all the same chassis and engine combination, the Elan chassis with that Mazda 4-cylinder 2-litre engine, and running very nicely indeed. They are the slightly higher pitched engines, and on some of the more twisty circuits last year, they gave the big cars a run for their money. They're extremely light and nimble, and our leader at the moment having to keep his wits about him as Gary Gibson goes through in the red and white AVE.
On our timing screen, it is showing Jay Salmon in the number 46 car. Now, that is the MPC car that sort of has the zebra-like livery. It's showing us stopped, but I can't see anybody missing on track.
Must be in the second sector, so he's either at the very end of the infield section or somewhere down towards the bus stop.
Mystery.
The S has disappeared, so maybe he's just had a long sector. We'll keep an eye open for that car.
Michael Klemecki, our MPC leader, is a guy who never has really done the full calendar of this series, and now being closed in on very rapidly by Dr. Masson. For Michael, though, he's had so much success in this series. Last year, he got 3 wins. The year before, he had 4 wins out of a very limited schedule, but winning at Daytona would be something special.
And he is being pushed into some of his best times by Dr. Robert Masson in 2nd position. It's 1.6 seconds now, so he's pulled out another nearly half a second since the last time I looked at the gap. That's not to say that Masson isn't trying. He is, but he's lost another 0.6 just in the first sector there. Now, it doesn't look much, but that takes an awful lot of fighting back. Notice how the NPC cars aren't taking as much curb as we saw some of the P3 cars early on. Not that far further behind is Stuart Retty in the 21 car, the distinctive blue and white colour scheme that he's used for quite a long time now, Stuart, in the OTU Motorsports car. Stuart, who hails from Aberdeen in Scotland, so this weather is shorts and t-shirt for him.
Lane class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari. Porsche. BMW. Corvette. Ford. Racing at its finest.
Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
Tires changed.
Well, if this is not their standard pit stop, they're not changing driver.
Well, there's no fuel, and as long as there's no fuel, you do not have to be on the pit lane for 4 minutes.
Okay. That's interesting.
Curious. Not sure why you'd want to make an extra pit stop.
Well, they're already so far down, running in the 24th position overall, 13th in class. Their AM is in the car right now. They're giving him more experience, so might as well, if you're not going to get a podium, give your guy a bit more time on track.
And right now, 40 minutes has elapsed. So effectively, the pit window is open now if you are wanting to change your driver. But there's still an hour and 4 minutes left. The question that I didn't pose early on to Jeremy Shaw, but I know he's asked the teams, is how long can the P3 cars go on a tank of fuel?
They can do over an hour, so they're fine. But of course, it's the minimum drive time, so he's not changing drivers, is he?
No.
Lance Wilsey. So he's fine making that pit stop now. He can make it whenever he likes, effectively.
That was tires for Jim Garrett in the 42. Lance Wilsey came in, and I believe it was a penalty for him.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it was not a stop in the pit box, it was a straight through.
Okay.
But we do have a pit stop. That is the number 25 of Joel Janko making his way.
I think this is the first.
I'm sure it is.
First of the quote-unquote proper pit stop. So this should be a 4-minute pit stop. So don't expect to see anything happening very quickly here.
Air jack goes in, car comes up, and the driver change is beginning.
Meantime, spinner on the infield, and I think that's the 33 car again that has gone around. There was a swap for position just before that I'll bring you up to date with in a moment, but let's just confirm that...
Nope, 42.
Oh, it's the 42.
Jim Garrett.
It's Jim Garrett who's just come out of the pits, of course, and he'll be on cold tyres. So a cold set of Continentals, and Jim hot under the collar, but not under the rubber. So, with the rubber under him, should I say. So that will have been an eye-opening moment. just trying to work out what I saw a moment or two ago. I think it was Chris Wright and Roman De Angelis battling down into turn 1. Yes, it was. They're very close together for 3rd and 4th position. The lead is coming down gradually. It's only 10.5 seconds now, but that's 2 seconds from what it was.
Well, actually, it's gone out because it came down to as low as 8.5 seconds. And the last 2 or 3 laps, Austin McCusker has extended that by, well, actually, last lap by about a second over Michael Wilders. Now, again, as you say, over 10 seconds between 1st and 2nd.
This is the 2nd year that we've had the LMP2 cars with the LMP3 cars at the head of the field. This is the first time we've had driver changes and endurance racing. A brand new format for 2018. Still 2 classes, still with the P3 cars as the big dogs, still with those great high revving Mazda engined MPC cars, the little 2-litre 4-cylinder inline. Still one of my favourite racing cars, proving you don't have to have a huge amount of power. They're very light, very efficient, very nimble. And as I said, last year gave the bigger engine cars some real problems at times. So Austin McCusker has almost led since the green flag went down. I think there was maybe a couple of 100 metres around the circuit on that first lap, but he regained it by the end of the first lap, lost it again, then regained it. Michael Weldon in 2nd now, struggling to hold the pace. 11 seconds in 2nd position. 47, the Norma leads from the number 3. The 33 still with evidence of damage, isn't it?
Well, that's new damage. That was significantly more damage to the left front of the Ligier for Lance Wilsey. He went off at the International Horseshoe, and the left front is sitting significantly lower than it was.
That's the side that he dinged against the wall on the formation, that left front.
Dinged? Slammed?
I'm saying dinged.
It was a sizable hit, but the nose is actually starting to come off. He needs to pit.
I think he may have steering damage as well. It looked like the left front Continental wasn't pointing in the way that Lance would like it. He needs to get down off the high banks there. Meanwhile, across the line, here's the leader right underneath us, completing his 25th lap and heading into the first corner. And this, at the moment, is turning into a demonstration drive. He's within the pit window now. The question will be, how much racing has the team decided to give the Swiss teammate of Austin McCusker, that's David Drew, for 47 Motorsports? How much time is he going to get in the car? Will they split it exactly half and half? Fastest lap of his race going to Roman De Angelis, and he's being pushed into that because Chris Wright is only half a second behind him at the moment in the battle for the final podium spot in 3rd.
Fuel's starting to burn off.
Yeah.
Car's getting lighter. Time should drop.
Tuning in from around the world to this coverage, thank you for your kind words on this new format. Everybody liking it, and it's bringing skills that perhaps we've not seen before in the shorter races, with a bit of more lappery going on, and also with tactics, of course, for the fuel and tyre stops and the driver changes. It's the first round of the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda from the Daytona International Speedway. Great way to get the 2018 IMSA season underway. The first time we've had competitive track running at the Roar before the Rolex 24 at Daytona. And what a fantastic way to raise the curtain on competition for this brand new year. Just under the hour now to go.
We've already had a handful of pit stops, 5 cars total, so that means 20 to go.
Yeah.
And only one of those has been an MPC car. That is of Bart Wolff coming into the pit lane, not sharing with anybody, but he still gets out of the car, runs back to the pit wall, and then once the fueling is done, he's allowed to return. He was running in the 4th position when he came in.
Looks like John Brownson's been in, but his last pit stop was early on, so that's not going to count. That was a drive-through, wasn't it? Yes. So McCusker by almost 12 seconds. 3 car in 2nd, the bright fluorescent green, silver and black machine. Wouldn't miss that one in the car park.
It's the traditional ESM colours,
yes,
though.
yeah, very much so. Very much so. And, Weldon then in second place.
44 in the pits as well, John.
Okay.
That's Gary Gibson bringing it in, and Josh Hurley will be taking it back out.
Huge amount of curb taken into the bus stop by the car that's in front of Weldon at the moment. That's not McCusker, he's too far up the road. Don't know if you can spot that as they come round Speedway turn 4. Shea, but that was all 4 wheels on the curb. I suppose that's one way to stop breaking the back of the car. If you fire it across,
if you get airborne, then there's nothing to hit it against on the curb.
Exactly.
That would be the number 25. Would that have been Kenton Cook?
Really? Has Kenton taken over that car from George?
Yes, he did. They were the first pit stop to get completed of this series.
So Kenton now on the run back, but is already laps away from the leaders. But don't forget, with the lap time here of 1:45 to 1:47, a 4-minute pit stop, well, you do the arithmetic, it's not even mathematics that. It's going to be a couple of laps at the very least, depending on where you are on the track.
Ask me to do arithmetic, get deer in the headlights. Look, we have another pit taker, so now we're seeing more and more cars start to take advantage of this window. Of course, if the caution comes out, you will not be allowed to pit, do your driver change, do your tire change.
Good point.
You got to get in before that happens, and that is the number 17. So the other P1 car of Matthew Dickin, he'll be handing over to Corey Lewis.
Yeah, so just the top 5 cars then yet, at least in the LMP3 cars, to make their first pit stop. Quite a few NPC cars yet to make their only pit stop during this race. But number 47 leads now by 12 seconds over number 3 of Michael Weldon. Another 5 seconds further back, car number 4, Roby DeAndres. Another couple of seconds behind him, Chris White in car number 30. Then some distance back in the 5th position, the only car still on the lead lap at the moment, with some of the other contenders making their pit stops, is car number 75, Cameron Castles.
And in that NPC category, still waiting for the pit stops for Chilmecki and Dr. Masson. A second and a half between them as they come underneath us now. That's not a second and a half to me as they come through. Let's see what the stopwatch tells us. No, 0.8 of a second. That was a great lap by Masson. 52.9 against a 53.4. And once again, this is heating up. Stuart Retty, who had got within striking distance of them, what, 3 or 4 laps ago in the blue and white number 21 car, now 8 seconds away. We've got 10 minutes. Check that. We have 15 minutes before you have to get in to get your second driver's drive time. So if you're driving with someone else, there's 15 minutes to go.
Dr. Masson, very comfortable around Daytona. His team, Performance Tech Motorsports, rented the track out in early December to give all their drivers a chance.
Got the leaders coming behind them now, or the leader, should I say. McCusker coming up to this battle at NPC to put them another lap off the lead. He's on his 29th lap at the moment. The NPC leaders on their 27th. And this is danger time for McCusker, who is the leader of the race and leader of LMP3, and also for Masson and Chilmecki, who are fighting amongst themselves. They will not want to give up any time to each other. Jeremy, McCusker's already gone past Masson without any issue. Now, over or under? Over.
Over. Low is slow. That's what they say in the driver meeting. If you are the slower car and you're getting passed on the left, something is wrong and race control will have a talk with you.
Okay.
I think that was a drive-through penalty also for car number 33, who has just made a run down the pit lane, having just made his mandatory pit stop a couple of laps, the previous lap, and just 3 laps before lap was also in the pits again.
Leader is in the pit lane. Here comes Austin McCusker, qualified in pole position, has led pretty much every lap of the race, certainly across the line. And he comes in now, and standing by at the 47 Motorsports pit will be David Drew, the Swiss driver.
So when the clock reaches 49 minutes and 38 seconds to go, they can cross the pit out line. Following them in is the number 3, the car that was in 3rd position.
I think
second
that's
position.
second position.
Yeah.
Well done, yeah.
Yeah.
So Roman De Angelis goes up to the lead. Chris Wright will go into second, so it'll be 4:30 next time around, assuming they stay out across the line. There's still time if they want to be scored as the leader, if that's important to them.
Roman De Angelis is not sharing a car, so he doesn't have to come in before the drive time
True.
elapses.
True, but he's got to come in and get fuel at some stage.
Yes, that he does.
So he's still got to do a 4-minute stop.
Unless he is Scott Dixon and can make fuel, he will need to visit the pit lane.
Correct. And remember, you can't come in other than for emergency service if the yellow flag comes out. So you do not want to be so close on fuel that if a yellow comes out, you have to make the extra pit stop.
And the pit stop format of this series is such that there can be one gun to change the tires and one tire assistant.
Yeah.
You cannot have multiple, so it's trying to keep costs down and keep things simple.
Well, and also if you are putting a 4-minute on, there's no need to be rushing. And you know, we're looking now from our perch here down at the 3 car and being able to see them taking the
The GT Daytona class competes with production models that utilize the global FIA GT3 specification. With a Pro-Am driver combination, the GTD cars don't offer the same aerodynamics and power as the GTLM class, but have 450 horsepower and are capable of speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
GTLM class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari. Porsche. BMW. Corvette. Ford. Racing at its finest.
Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
Well, their last lap by Roman De Angelis was 5 minutes 40, and that included his pit stop. So that's tight. What I don't have is the pit lane time on this screen. So that might be something we have to look at after the race. It is a big difference between Roman De Angelis and David Drew. And he did a 48.3 last time around to David Drew, so it wasn't super slow. Into the pit lane comes the second place overall car. Michael Chemecki leads the MPC category with 44 minutes still to go.
But Dr. Masson stayed out, so he will now inherit the lead
Correct.
of the MPC class. Chemecki comes in. Stephen Dawes comes in as well as the number 21 exits the pit box.
Now he's driving, I mean, Retty's driving on his own, Masson is driving on his own, and is Chemecki driving?
Chemecki is driving on his own, yeah.
Chemecki's driving on his own, yeah. So those guys don't have to worry about drive time, but they still have to worry about the 4 minutes. So in goes the fuel from the bottle. And they're deciding whether or not to do tyres.
David Drew lost a lot of time on that round of pit stops.
They spent about an extra, what did I say, 27 seconds in the pit lane over top of the window.
Yeah, he's now behind DeAndres. He's 13 seconds behind DeAndres, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, correct, uncorrected time.
Robert Masson still out on track, and Chris Wright still shown as in the pit lane.
So that's Roman De Angelis effectively in the lead of the race, as Daniel Morad has taken over the 30 car and left the pit lane. So the 47 car now in second place of the P3 cars.
Third place, because Morad came out still with the lead, right?
No, can't have. Shoot.
Well, it's certainly conceivable. I mean, he stayed out there. You know, he's. Let's see where they are. On the racetrack.
Drew's already through the first sector in that lap.
Drew's behind.
Yeah, so it's DeAngelis, Drew, and Morad.
Is this okay?
Morad hasn't gone through the first sector on his 33rd lap yet. Robert Masson scored as the leader overall because he stayed out one more lap. Stuart Retty goes through in second. Roman De Angelis now in third, just 1.7 seconds behind the MPC car. 11 and 21 have not made their stops yet, remember. Next through should be Drew, and it is. Yep. And then it'll be Morad, I think, because I think he's just ahead. It's going to be tight between him and Weldon, actually, in the 3 car. In fact, it should be Max Hanratty in the Extreme Speed Motorsports number 3, shouldn't it?
This is a timing sheet that Dr. Masson will want to keep, a lap chart.
Take a picture.
Yep.
If you're in the 11 pit at the moment for Performance Tech Motorsport, leads with 41 minutes to go.
Can't imagine that they would leave Dr. Robert Masson out for very much longer. Although he is from Central Florida.
He's driving on his own, so he's done his time. So it's just about when he takes the 4-minute stop.
A lot of friends and family here, I would imagine, just being from a little bit down the road in Windermere.
Roman De Angelis is effectively the leader of the race, and by that I mean that when the 2 cars ahead of him stop, which they have to do, he will assume the lead.
And both of those MPC cars ahead of him, the first and second overall in the race at the moment, they're just setting their personal best sector times at the moment, both of them. They're 11 and 21.
Light on fuel.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Roman might have just passed Stuart Retty, actually, as Drew comes through. Still that 13-second gap. Now, we're going to have a chat after the race here with the team, the 47 Motorsport team, because I wonder if they've got a stopwatch problem and they held that car a tiny bit too long. Now, a couple of seconds is far better to have a couple of seconds over than be half a second under and get pinged for it after the race. But 20 seconds? 30 seconds?
Might it be a misinterpretation of the rules? Because it's about a 30-second pit lane delta.
30 seconds, so they might have thought it was 4 minutes standing still. Well, there you go.
New team to the series, so it
Well,
wouldn't be the first time.
New rules for everybody.
New rules for everybody.
We'll have to wait and see, unless they would just give everybody else a
Maybe.
give them a chance. Because before the round of pit stops, number 47 car, he had a lead of about 12 seconds over the number 3, and the number 4 car, driven by Roman DeAndres, he was another 5 seconds back in second place. There was what, 17 seconds between the number 47 and number 4 car before the round of pit stops, and now, as you say, it's about 13 seconds the other way.
Yeah, and Shea said somewhere over 25 seconds that she felt it was a bit long.
Indeed.
So Robert Masson leads, DeAngelis second, but Masson leads owing us a 4-minute pit stop. So Romain DeAngelis is the effective leader.
He's in the naughty box. He's been called to the penalty box, and it's not just a drive-through. He has been told to stay put for a while.
Okay. Stuart Retty putting in good times here, and now still trying to put some pressure on as into the pit lane.
So that will put DeAndres in the lead of the race overall. He's just heading into turn 1 at the moment.
Scored as such as Robert Masson comes into the pit lane. Dr. Masson then making his call to the pit lane on the pit lane speed limiter. A bit jerky as he comes down in front of us now in that number 11. Mazda powered Elan DPO2.
Followed by Stuart Reddy.
Yeah.
So both the 11 and the 21.
I think that makes sense. So they were about 10 seconds apart when they came into the pit lane. Also still in the pit lane, the 22 car. And Stephen Dawes, Performance Tech Motorsport, MPC. So we are now back to a form of normality, the P3 runners would think, with Romain DeAngelis still leading the race, still leading his class, but now leading the race again by 12.3 seconds. So that has come down a tiny bit, but we're talking fractional margins here. 0.4 of a second last time around, David Drew gained and Romain DeAngelis. Third will be Michael Weldon as he comes through, but he's quite a long way back. He's yet to cross the line, I think. Let me see. No, he's come through 30 seconds, 14 seconds behind Retty when he came at the pit lane, so he's a long way back. Then Daniel Morad in the number 30 Extreme Speed Motorsport car that he took over from Chris Wright is in 4th position in LMP3. So that will leave Cameron Castles in 5th in the 75. He's driving on his own for Performance Tech Motorsports. And rounding at the top 6 then, it will be Josh Hurley, who has taken over the number 44 AVE Motorsports AVE-Riley AR2 from Gary Gibson. That was the bright red car that was battling at the sharp end of the field early on. In MPC, Masson and Retty are the 2 leaders, and they are in the pit lane. They came in line astern, well, separated by 9.4 seconds when they crossed the line. In 3rd in MPC now is the number 36, Paul LaHaye, driven One Motorsports Elan DP2, and he is in the pits as well. Right, that makes sense. That's his pit stop. I was about to say that's a lot of room. So I had anyway missed out John Brownson in the 34 car, the Eurosport racing car, who I think did his, well, he's still got his pits to do.
Yes, indeed.
Because his pit early on was on the 4th lap, and Shea seems to think that was for a drive-through.
Yep. He certainly didn't stop in his box.
Right.
And he did not take on any fuel.
He's driving on his own anyway, so again, it's not a question of drive time, it's a question of him. He's actually now gone to be scored as leader of MPC in 5th overall, but he has a 4-minute stop still to do. So I reckon then that when all this shakes out, in 3rd position should be the Performance Tech Motorsport number 18 again of Wyatt Schwab. Should be back in 3rd position in MPC.
Yeah, and the question there is, does he need to make an additional pit stop, presumably
for fuel?
Yeah.
And because his pit stop earlier on was not of the 4-minute length, because it was the damage repair.
Yeah, we don't know how long it was, do we? Do we know how long it was? No, we don't.
I made a mental note of when he came in and when he left, and it wasn't long enough.
That was way back.
I do remember that.
It was way back on lap number 11. Head of the field, David Drew is closing down on Romain De Angelis. He's got 35 minutes to gain 11.5 seconds, and we've seen this before in these Prototype Challenge races. The IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda has provided us some great racing since we brought the LMP3 cars in, and it looks like we've got another outstanding race which will go right through the season, Shane.
Yeah, we go from here to Sebring International Raceway in March, so a little bit of a break, recovery time, as we do have that number 18 Wyatt Schwab back onto the pit lane. This will be his long pit stop. From Sebring, it's on to Barber Motorsports Park in April, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in July. Can you imagine these cars around there? That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Virginia International Raceway, VIR, in August, and then finishing out the season with the IMSA Spectacular Weekend, Petit Le Mans, Road Atlanta.
So they're at the GT Festival at VIR in August.
Yes,
Excellent.
they are.
Only prototypes that will be there. Another pit lane caller for one of the MPCs. It's the bright orange car that's coming in.
A little squirrely under braking.
Is that Brownson, the 34? Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Eurosport racing car with the white nose piece.
Yeah, the veteran, 116 starts he's done in this championship.
Is that all?
Yeah, dating all the way back to making his debut back in 2007.
Two-time Masters champion, is he not?
Three-time Masters champion, I think, yeah.
New fastest first sector, Kenton Cook trying to make up some time in the 25 Ligier, sitting in 8th position at the moment. And in fact, well, other than Michael Weldon, who's back in the 44s, I think Michael Weldon's the only driver that's been in the 44s this far into the race.
Yep.
And he's not been consistent. He's just done a 44, then a 47. Kenton doing a 45.1 and a 45.3. So he's doing some quick times here.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Romain De Angelis, who leads this race, his last 4 laps have been 45.82, 45.92, 45.93, 45.87. Love that consistency, Romain De Angelis, and that is why, even though David Drew in that number 47 car, the Norma, has apparently a faster car, he's not making much inroads. He's just pulling in maybe a couple or 3/10 of a second per lap. That is not enough, even with half an hour remaining. So he's going to have to step up his pace as David Drew if he wants to snatch away that win from Romain De Angelis.
Taking half a second out of him last time around, 45.5 by De Angelis. David Drew 45 flat. And that slight improvement from De Angelis from the times that Jeremy just read you out there was down to a very fast first sector. Indeed, it was Romain De Angelis' fastest first sector of the race. That is 54 seconds long, that first sector, if you call in the meal, which Daniel Morad is, and he's just done his and his car's fastest lap of the race. The number 30 Ligier down to a 45 flat as well, as he's trying to chase down the number 3 of Max Hanratty, who is now on the timing screen. Thank you. Timing and scoring. Thanks, Al Kamel, for that.
Daniel Morad would love nothing more than to be told you have a car 10 seconds ahead of you, go get him.
Yeah.
That's what he lives for.
Of course, every driver likes to be completely released. Was that a little mistake there by Romain De Angelis as he was coming down to the International Horseshoe? Or was he just making sure that the car in close proximity knew what he was doing?
Well,
it's Kenton.
It's Kenton Cook, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, Kenton's about to unlap himself.
Correct.
That's what's happening there.
Yeah, trying to unlap himself.
So this is the leader, and behind it's not the second place car, it's the 8th place car. As into turn 1 comes Robert Masson. By the way, John Brownson, when he pitted there, was in the lead of the race, that 34 car, but still in the pits at the moment. So it will be Robert Masson who comes through next time around to reclaim the lead from Scott Retty in second. And up into third then. Now my calculations have gone awry a bit here, because Schwab has pitted again in the 18 car.
Right.
So that means Tassio Ortiz will be in third position in the 28, the Wolf Motorsport car that he took over from Bart Wolf. Do you think it...
No. Well, yeah, it's good.
It depends when Brownson comes out the pits, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yes. He's still sitting there at the moment.
He is.
Meanwhile, tell you, the other guy who's flying at the moment is Daniel Morad.
Yeah.
If he'd taken over that car number 30 from Chris Wright, he's just gone into the 44s, 144.9 last time around, and he's closing in inexorably on his Extreme Speed Motorsport teammate Max Hanratty in car number 3. The gap was over 12 seconds. It's come down to 10 seconds, 9 seconds, now 6.5 last time around. So
that was courtesy of 3 seconds plus made on that last lap.
Indeed.
And that was Max Hanratty doing a 47.3. David Drew doing a 47.8. And there must have been a gaggle of traffic because even Roman De Angelis was down in the 46s, 46.0. So I'm guessing there that those guys hit traffic at an inopportune moment because they've all had their times pushed out. Now the question is, will Daniel Morad then hit that little gaggle of traffic, or will he be able to power past? But a 44.9 puts him the only second driver to be in the 44s, along with Michael Weldon. 44.7, by the way, is the fastest lap of the race by Michael Weldon on all the way back on lap 13, and we're on lap 41 now. Yes, and all of a sudden David Drew is back out to 12 seconds behind.
And it was a gaggle of traffic because Morad's last lap time through was a
47.9. Yeah, 46.2, then a 47.9 by Cameron Castles. And Sean Rahal's just put his in the car's fastest lap in 7th position in the number 51 KR2 Motorsports. Sorry, K2R Motorsports leash here.
Does Cameron Castles have to worry about Josh Hurley? Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
Because Josh Hurley just went around him going into turn 1. The two of them were so close together, it looked like one LMP3 car coming across the start-finish line.
That's the battle for 5th and 6th.
Whoa!
Oh, big
Locks
slide.
him up under braking. He's going to hit the back end. Yes, he does. Locks up there, does Cameron Castles. Hits the back end of the AVE-Riley, spins that around, and there behind those two is Sean Rahal making his way past both of those two.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Great pick up by the guys on the cameras there into the International Horseshoe, and that a mistake by Cameron Castles. Under braking, locked the back end up, and I'm afraid that Josh Hurley, he will be seething here. Big mistake, locked the front up first. Castles going sideways then, completely out of control, and that might just get him a penalty.
Well, remember, Castles made a very similar move earlier on in the race, and it worked. He tried it again, and this time it didn't.
Yeah, getting on the grass didn't help.
Exactly right, Shane. No, it didn't. He locked him up, just got broadside there, and it's a shame that Josh Hurley couldn't quite see him in his mirrors spinning, probably. And so as he turned into the corner, he would have had no idea that the number 75 car was going backwards across the grass. So really unfortunate for Josh Hurley and that AVE-Riley team. I was talking to Tony Arve this morning. There's a second car in build, and they hope to have that out fairly soon. Probably not for Sebring, but before too long have a second of the AVE-Riley cars out there to challenge the Phalanx of Ligiers and a new Norman.
Josh is throwing bodywork off that car at the moment as he's trying to get back up to speed. Good news is the bodywork has now fallen off and is not fouling the right rear Continental. The bad news is it's fallen off on the track at the bus stop and he still looks loose. He's going to be cursing himself and he just went past Cameron Castles there. That's not intentional at all by Cameron Castles, but the point is there, it's avoidable contact. It was a mistake by Castles, it's affected someone else's race, and we wait to see what will happen there.
Of course, with Cameron Castles coming into the pit lane, it's a self-serving penalty.
Yes, it may be a moot point. Damaged bodywork, steaming gently in the middle of the bus stop.
And there is Kenton Cook. He's just got past Roman De Angelis. They're heading into the East Horseshoe now with Kenton Cook back on the lead lap in that car number 25.
My apologies, the steaming bodywork was in the International, the East Horseshoe, just where that battle that Jeremy was describing has gone through there. And that is Kenton Cook back. Yes.
And that lap that cost Roman De Angelis quite a lot of time, 47.8 on that last lap for De Angelis, and that is good news for David Drew in second place because he's got clear traffic and the gap now is down to 10 seconds from first to second. That's number 4 ahead of the 47.
And now there's a decision to be made by race control. We have a large chunk of bodywork. It's not on the racing line, but it's not off it entirely. We know there's debris in the bus stop, and we know that there's debris at various other portions around the track has been thrown by the 44. Do they throw the caution? 25
minutes to go. Sean Rahal on a tear as well at the moment.
Yeah, and Daniel Murrad now about to make the pass on, actually heading down to West Horseshoe. You can see that battle for third and fourth place. Hanratty has it ulti inside under braking for the Horseshoe with Daniel Murrad right behind him there now in car number 30.
As the leader is on the high banks at the other end of the racetrack, picking his way through damaged traffic. Who's that bright green car who's lost the front end?
Morad got through. That would be the Wyatt Schwab car.
That's, of course, yes, it
Morad
is.
gets through as they exit turn 6. Hanratty went a little bit on the high side, and Morad said, "Thank you very much. I'll see that open door."
And that will put him into third position. Ahead of him, David Drew, and this car going down into the first corner. Roman De Angelis, who has built himself a healthy lead, but it's been pulled back and he's lost another couple of seconds that time around. I've got to ask the question now, is there a problem with that number 4 car?
Yes, the problem is that Kenton Cook ahead of him isn't pulling away.
Kenton Cook last time around did a 46.9, 47.5 for De Angelis, 45.7, and it's under 9 seconds. In fact, it's closer to 8 seconds. David Drew, with 24 minutes to go, has got 8.3 seconds of a gap. Now, this is very interesting indeed, with a potential, of course, of, well, I think if we were going to see a yellow, it would have come out by now. Daniel Morad on a charge as well. He's just in a 45.2. He was the fastest man of the lead group last time around by some half a second. He's a long way back, but anything could happen if we get closed up behind a safety car. It wouldn't be a very long safety car period. In MPC, by the way, the gap between Dr. Robert Masson and Stuart Retty has eased out. Masson in 10th position leads MPC in that number 11 car, and he's already completed his lap, and it's 13 seconds between first and second. Shea.
Why did Michael Klemecki never come back out of the pit lane? He had been leading when he came and made his pit stop. His white MPC car is still sitting down toward the pit exit. He never re-emerged.
Maybe they didn't wind up their stopwatch and it hasn't reached the 4 minutes yet.
Guys, it's more than 4 minutes.
Yeah, they've had some mechanical problems on those cars. All 3 Eurosport cars had a problem this morning. There was a blown engine for one. There was a drive shaft problem on the Michael Klemecki car, and Tim George in the other car, I think, was a fuel system problem of some sort. Yeah, fuel pressure problem on the 24 car as well.
Roman De Angelis will be delighted that Kenton Cook last time around did his fastest lap of the race and becomes the 3rd man into the 44s. A 1:44.9 allowed Roman De Angelis to do a 45.9 and therefore nick a bit of time back from David Drew, who's now 9 seconds behind in second place. He did a 46.5. We are going to be talking about small margins here. 9 seconds seems like a big gap, but if there's traffic, 1:44.6, Daniel Morad's just gone the fastest of anyone through the whole of the race. 20 minutes to go. The leaders are round about first, second and third, round about 30 seconds, 35 seconds. In fact, if you add Max Hanratty to that, it's still only under 50 seconds. So anything could still happen here. No mistakes. Lead 4 still within striking distance if there's any issues. A missed overtaking, a botched lappery, and this could all change.
Trying to brake a little too deep in a corner.
Exactly so, Shea. We're talking fine margins here.
Cameron Castle's back into the pit lane again. Might this be the penalty being served?
See where he goes for the spin.
Continuing down the pit lane.
I don't see him pulling into the pits.
Nope.
Into the pit lane himself, as through comes the leader.
Being waved into the naughty step box. Yeah. So this is a little bit, nope, being told to go back out. So it was a drive-through penalty.
It was a drive-through for avoidable contact. No need for a stop and hold, just a drive-through. As through, when all that was happening, that black and fluorescent orange of the number 4.
Roman De Angelis responding to Daniel Morad's threat with his personal best time last time through, but it's, what, 0.8 of a second slower than that of what Morad did.
But crucially faster than David Drew in the 47 Norma behind him. That Norma now out to 9.2 seconds, and De Angelis now, I don't know Roman too much. I spoke to him at the awards dinner, the Night of Champions, last year at Petit Le Mans. Don't know if he's the sort of driver who likes to be told a lot, or whether he just gets on with it and asks for the information when he gets it. But the gap's going in his favour at the moment. Leo Lamales, by the way, the Brazilian driver in the Charles Richt Racing Ligier, has just put in the fastest middle sector of anybody. So that car's trimmed out then.
Yeah, that's the 19-year-old from São Paulo, Brazil. This is his first ever car race, actually, Leo Lamales.
178.2 miles an hour through the trap. That's 5 miles an hour quicker than anybody else. And well, no, I say that, and Josh Hurley's just gone through the 7, but that is considerably higher than anybody else I've seen. I've been watching those. They've been low to mid 170s and 178, nearly 179 miles an hour through the trap.
Young and fearless.
Clearly.
Daniel Morad, personal best and overall best, Sector 1. Oof. He has been unleashed.
And it's changed around again at the front with another 3 tenths going back to David True, but tenths are not enough for David True with 18.5 minutes to go. Roman De Angelis leads in the ANSA Motorsports number 4. Then it's Drew. Then at the head of MPC, 13 seconds between Robert Masson, who's carving his way through back market traffic as he's on the high banks of Daytona now. Stuart Retty now 13 seconds, as he has been for some time, in arrears with it is Tassio Otis, as I suspected, in the number 28 car, but he shares with Bart Wolf, the Wolf Motorsports Elan DP02, and he is in 3rd position at the moment, and he's got half a minute back to the number 22 Stephen Dawes for Performance Tech in 4th in MPC.
The GT Daytona class competes with production models that utilize the global FIA GT3 specification. With a Pro-Am driver combination, the GTD cars don't offer the same aerodynamics and power as the GTLM class, but have 450 horsepower and are capable of speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
GTLM class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari.
The GT Daytona class competes with production models that utilize the global FIA GT3 specification. With a Pro-Am driver combination, the GTD cars don't offer the same aerodynamics and power as the GTLM class, but have 450 horsepower and are capable of speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
The Prototype class has an all-pro driver lineup and the fastest and most technologically advanced cars in North America, including the Daytona Prototype International, or DPI. Prototype cars have 450 to 600 horsepower and are capable of reaching speeds of over 200 miles per hour.
GTLM class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari. Porsche. BMW. Corvette. Ford. Racing at its finest.
it'd be good for Alain Nadal and AMSA Motorsports, because that team, they've been around the sport a long, long time, running all sorts of different cars. And remember, they won a couple of these races last year at Barber with Nico Germain, who came in, the Frenchman came in to do the races and was head and shoulders above the rest.
My question is, if Romain doesn't drive this car, have they got someone else lined up to drive it? If they haven't, then surely they'd be better off keeping him in the car.
Absolutely. They'd love to, but someone's got to pay the bills. That's the tricky bit. But clearly it's a good car, and Romain Grosjean's first ever prototype race has done a magnificent job today. Is it enough? The gap went out again last lap, or extended again last lap, because he put almost a second on number 47, David Drew, who himself on that lap had the traffic that DeAndres had found on the previous go-around.
14 minutes to go. Daniel Morad's on a little bit of clear Daytona circuit and puts in another fastest first sector. Kenton Cook is not far behind him as far as the time's concerned, of 44.6 last time around from Kenton Cook, and he's now within a second of 6th position and Josh Hurley. So that's one that we need to keep an eye on. The bright red number 44 car, the AVE-Riley, and Kenton Cook in the 25 P1 Motorsports car that he took over from Joel Janko. There is the battle coming down to the west end of the race circuit and into the right-handed horseshoe hairpin. And Kent in that multicoloured car, closing in on the red AVE-Riley as they go back through the tricky turn number 6. A couple of different changes of surface there, and then you've got to ride the transition onto the high banks. Oh, there's a problem! Hurley's catching. It's that right rear. I thought he'd blown the motor there, but I think it's just the tyre catching on the right rear bodywork. He lost some of that bodywork earlier. Remember, Cameron Castle spun into him. Cameron's already had to serve a penalty there, and that is when the right rear Continental is loaded up on the top side of the banking, and that's very dangerous indeed. 12.5 minutes to go. Kent will go up over the top. No, he's going to go down underneath. Wow, that's a brave manoeuvre, dragged all the way up to that ailing car, and he goes through. That's a new 6th position, Kenton Cook.
Shortest way around the track is at the bottom of the banking.
That is true.
Because Sean Reynolds gone missing, did we?
Yeah.
Did we mention that?
I was going to point that out. It says that he's missing in Sector 2, but I've been looking around the track and can't see anything. As Hurley battled back a little bit, but Kenton managed to stay in front of the 44.
Got to be a worry with that tyre rub on the back of that car. When the tyre rub stops, you hope that it's the bodywork that has gone and not the tyre. Kenton dragging up to the back in the middle of the oval.
And it's a good thing he didn't go to the right, because there was bodywork that
flying
flew off.
So still debris falling off from the right rear, and there's a big chunk of bodywork behind the right rear Continental tyre and wheel assembly that is flapping in the breeze now, and no wonder then that is rubbing on the wheel and tyre itself. DeAngelis' lead is down to 7.8 seconds, and Daniel Morad is down to a 44.2. Morad, they've just lit the blue touch paper and stood back.
Promised him Timbits. That's all you have to do for Daniel. Robert Masson still leading, 11 seconds over Stuart Reddy, so feeling pretty good about where he is for now.
That's come down a couple of seconds, mind you.
It has. It has.
But with 10 minutes left, 11 minutes left, that's not an issue.
Now that you've said that, it is an issue.
Yes.
That was John who said that, Dr. Masson, just so you know.
Yeah, looking for his first overall win, isn't he, Robert Masson, in that category? He had one finish last year in the, well...
He finished twice, 2 times, once at Watkins Glen and once at Lime Rock, but he never did get that first victory in the MPC class.
No, I think 5th was his best, actually. Is that right? 5th overall in the class? Not sure.
Great to see him back out again this year, and still thoroughly enjoying his motorsport. That's the key part of it, I think.
Well, yeah, just his 2nd year. I mean, last year was his first full season for Robert. He saw how much fun Kyle was having, his son, and so, hey, I need to do some of that. So, you know, again, he takes it very, very seriously, and clearly has upped his game this season, and looking to to get that first overall win in NPC. Boy, that would be a big moment for him, particularly right here, as you were saying earlier on, in Florida.
He's very proud of his son. Take nothing away from that, but he'd really like to stop being referred to as Kyle's dad. He would like to be respected as a race car driver, and he's proven that today.
I think he's got that and all of it. At the head of the field, Roman De Angelis still keeping up a cracking pace, a 46 flat last time around, but a 45 flat in his fastest lap of the race for David Drew. Daniel Morad, 44.2 last time around, a new fastest lap on lap number 51. He's closed in within 27 seconds of second position. Crucially, he's pulled out almost 18 seconds on fourth. He's nailed on for a podium right now, but he is still pushing hard. Kenton Cook is desperately trying to chase down now Max Hanratty, but he's got a lot of ground to make up there. So the interest now, as Kenton Cook has passed Josh Hurley and pulled out 1.4 seconds. Well, Josh is not giving up, he's pushing hard, but the interest now is certainly at the head of the field as far as LMP3 is concerned. MPC looks to be going the way of Robert Masson. Now, I'll say that, but Dr. Masson, in fact everybody who's driving single-handed here, they've not done as much racing as this in one go before, Shane.
That's exactly correct. I was going to mention to Jeremy, Roman De Angelis, this is the longest race of his life so far, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
longest
done a
would
lot
have been
of 45
minutes races. Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right, absolutely. For most of these guys, David Drew's done longer races, Daniel Morad has done longer races, according to course, including winning the 24 hours here 1 year ago. But yeah, it's the pressure is on there, and Kenton Cook now
fastest lap of the race.
Lap of the race, yeah.
It's Morad and Cook who are battling it out. Daniel Morad's done his fastest lap last time around, a 44.218, but a 44.207 has pushed the fastest lap of the race to Kenton Cook in the number 25. Kenton, who has made a bit of a career of winning championships with the word Mazda in them, and this is the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda. Been a visitor to our booth in the past as well.
Just 6 seconds between first and second.
Yeah, this is interesting, Jeremy.
Two very consistent laps by our leader, 146.07 on lap 51, 146.09 on lap 52. But David Drew there, 145.3 that time around. He's still a second behind the pace of Daniel Morad and Kenton Cook. But if he can step it up just a little bit, maybe that first win is possible. Just over 7 minutes remaining.
Ligier, Norma, Ligier, AVE-Riley, your top six at the moment. 7 minutes to go. Jeremy Shaw, Shea Adam, John Hindhaugh, the first IMSA competitive event of 2018. Is the Scouts of the America 1 hour 45 minute race here at Daytona International Speedway as part of the Raw before the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We've not had competitive running here ever before in this early part of January.
I don't think we've ever had this many Scouts here before either, John.
Huge amount of people on the infield, and the grid walk, I was sitting up here watching it and you could not see the cars.
Yeah.
It was great to see, and a great initiative from Scouts of America and IMSA to bring all the young ladies and gentlemen, who, by the way, are camped out at completely opposite ends of the facility. The Boy Scouts are down at turns 3 and 4. The Girl Scouts are down at 1 and 2. And
there's hardly anywhere to park on the infield.
Oh, no, it's great.
It's absolutely packed in there. Fantastic.
And there's more parking than ever as well, because there's more hard standing than ever this year. 6 minutes to go.
And last lap, Roman De Angelis down in the 45s again. 45.8 he turned. Almost identical lap to the second place car of David Drew.
Does not want to see a whole bunch of cars ahead of him, does he? Roman De Angelis, I think he's timed this about right. We've seen it in the past. His ability to manage tyres, something he developed in the IMSA Porsche Carrera Cup USA. And those are heavy cars, and a 45-50 minute race means that you do have to develop that skill. It is a skill. And I think he's probably done enough. But David Drew is at the very least keeping it honest at the moment, Shea Adam.
Very much so, and with a 6 second gap with 5 minutes to go, our leader crosses the start-finish line now. That would be 54 laps, and now goes through second place. It's not over.
Stuart Retty has closed down to about 11 seconds on Robert Masson. That's been similar to that. It was 13 seconds and he got it down a little bit. But so Tassio Otis is a further, well, more than a minute and 15 or so. So that looks like the top three in NPC. Credit Dr. Masson, by the way, he's in the top 10 in 8th position. That's a solid finish by an NPC car, albeit 4 laps off the pace. But round here, 4 laps off the pace is not bad at all.
Yeah, and probably three laps remaining, I would suggest here, and 5.2 seconds the gap between first and second.
A little bit of a dangerous moment has just been overcome by the leader in NPC. Cameron Castles was behind him, but now he's got through, so no repeat of Cameron's misdemeanour earlier on, for which he was pinged for a drive-through penalty. 5.2 seconds then. David Drew, the man from Switzerland, in the 47 Motorsports car. Austin McCusker claimed pole position and handed the car over. It's maybe a snafu at the pit stop, something that we'll have to find out post-race. My goodness, Shea Adam, that could be costly.
It could be, and on the flip side, did Roman D'Angelo serve all 4 minutes? Because it was a very tight window, showing his outlap was 5:40. It's going to be close. Roman D'Angelis, David Drew, Daniel Morad, 3 guys from 2 different countries, 2 Canadians and a Swiss represented. First American, Maxwell Hanratty back in 4th, and then Kenton Cook, Josh Hurley.
Austin McCusker, of course, in the lead car.
Yes, true
yeah,
enough.
Yeah.
Yes, good point. The guys at the front of the field are trading tenths of seconds through the different sectors. It's fantastic to watch the timing screens. The sun just beginning to get a little bit low. The shadows beginning to lengthen here. So we're in the mid-afternoon at Daytona in this early part of the year, and when we come back for the Rolex, it's a very long darkness period, well over 13 hours of darkness.
I reckon it'll be a white flag next time around, and that's 55 laps completed. On that lap, Roman D'Angelis turned 145.5. That's the best lap he's turned since lap 46, so 10 laps ago. He's got the bit between his teeth now. He can taste that victory champagne.
And that's only a tenth away from his best lap of the race. David Drew has not given up. He's just done his best first sector as the gap comes down below 5 seconds. Oh my goodness, he's gonna wish, I think Drew's gonna wish that this had been a 2-hour race and not a 1 hour 45.
Oh yeah, you'd probably at this stage
1 hour
be
50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It might literally be that close. You're right.
Yeah.
He's going to catch D'Angelis, but can he pass him?
I don't think he is.
He's going to need some help, certainly, because he's last couple of laps, he was 3/10 of a second quicker on the last lap, but this on this
taken
lap,
7/10 out of him already, and he's only halfway around the lap. Now, is it white flag?
There's D'Angelis, white
flag. Jeremy Shaw gets it right, as he always does.
And there goes David Drew in second place.
And it's come down to 3.5 seconds. A 1:44.661 for David Drew. That's a stunning lap. Not quite the fastest. That still goes to Kenton Cook.
But it's his best lap.
Yeah. What
That's
a time to pull it
lap.
out. What a time to pull it out.
Roman D'Angelis has traffic in front of him on the circuit.
Qualifying, by the way, this morning, first thing this morning, really cold conditions by Austin McCusker in that caliber 47 was 145.0. So the top 4 or 5 cars well underneath that during this race.
Oh, D'Angelis struggling for grip through the West Horseshoe. Has he worked his Continental tyres too hard? Is that what the problem's been? No, it can't be. His last lap was good. Maybe. Is he losing concentration? Surely not. He's a young man. He's got an MPC car ahead of him.
He'll be fine. He's getting good coaching, I'm sure, from Alan Liddell
sure.
and the rest of the guys at ANSA Motorsports, ANSA Motorsports crew.
And he's taken almost a second out of Drew in that first sector, and that's enough. He's going to win it. So long as he makes no mistakes now. He's heading into the braking area at the bus stop right opposite the start-finish line. He's more than halfway around the final circuit. 4 seconds left on the clock. The checkered flag is in hand down on the starter stand underneath our feet and slightly to our left. And the Ligier, he's going to take the first victory of the season. Romain De Angelis driving solo for ANSA Motorsports in a entry that was speculative to say the least, takes the opening IMSA race of 2018 and wins the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda, the Scouts of America race here at Daytona.
The Ligier over the Norma for race 1 at the very least, as we await the MPC class leader. It is currently Dr. Robert Masson with an 11-second, 12-second lead over Stuart Reddy. Where are they on track though, Jeremy?
Not sure actually, but that was a great effort by Romain De Angelis. He actually extended his lead on that final lap. A little bit further back though, Kenton Cook slowed right down on that fastest lap, and maybe he's
stopped in
yes,
turn 1.
exactly. He stopped in turn 1. He lost a position and did cross the finish line, however, but 1 lap behind the leader. And where is Robert Masson?
He's coming around the banking now into turn 4, NASCAR turn 4. Our first ever MPC winner around Daytona International Speedway in about 10 seconds time. As we wait just to make sure he doesn't have any issues. Now he's crossed the line, his fist is pumping in the air. Dr. Masson, first win in the series, comes here at home.
And thanks to the IMSA collective, we've had a number of people that have timed unofficially the pit stop of the leader, Romain De Angelis, at around about, I've got a number of bids, anything between 4:10 and 4:15.
Yep.
So that should be okay.
Good.
That was pit in to pit out.
And by the way, on that final lap, Daniel Murray turned a new fastest lap of the race.
Oh, did he?
Hit car number 30,
Nicked
the
it back
third place
from
car.
Kenton.
Yeah, for three different teams in the top 3 positions. ANSA Motorsports in first place, 47 Motorsports second with that Norma, and the second of the Ligiers among the top 3 for Extreme Speed Motorsports. Daniel Murray fastest lap, 1:44.114 on that final lap.
So Kenton Cook ran out of fuel, having stopped on lap 35.
He was the first of our cars to stop for a pit stop.
No, he stopped on last stopped on lap 35.
That was,
that was a
that was
penalty.
a drive-through, yeah.
No, that was when he went to the naughty
whatever it
box.
was.
Yeah, okay, sorry. You're absolutely right, because I was going to say we have other people who had stopped before that. That kind of threw me the curveball. Well, it's congratulations to ANSA Motorsports, and particularly to Romain De Angelis, one of the nicest people you could hope to meet, and rather unlucky last year in his challenge in the Porsche category of the IMSA Development Series.
Who do you think is going to be happiest for him? That would be his father, Max, who has spent many a year competing in this series in other iterations.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Romain De Angelis, clearly a talent for the future.
Absolutely, just 16 years of age is all he is. He'll have his 17th birthday not until the middle of February, and yeah, what a talent this young man is. He's a super well, just collected individual as well. He's very mature
so
for his years.
So he wouldn't have been able to compete here last year because you've got to be 16 to race at Daytona.
Gets out of the car, big fist pump as he turns around and sees the crew behind him.
Not the helmet. The helmet design.
Very nice.
Very nice.
And the maple leaf on his lower back as well.
Yeah.
Proud Canadian.
Yeah, what a race. Well judged, I think you'd say there.
Yeah.
Didn't get phased by the traffic,
drive.
didn't get phased by the gap coming down. It would have been easy for him to try and push too hard. We've seen some good drivers make mistakes here today.
Look, he wasn't the fastest combination out on track today, but he was fabulously consistent, wasn't he? And that is what won in the race. No mistakes to speak of, and a perfectly executed race for Romain De Angelis. And for a youngster for that age, just it is very, very impressive.
At the other end of the age scale and the experience, or the age scale, not perhaps the experience scale, because only his second year of full-time motor racing, Dr. Robert Masson wins MPC, and he is going to be one happy doctor.
1 year ago, he was in this victory lane celebrating his son winning the 24 Hours of Daytona in the PC category. Now he gets to drive his own car in and celebrate his own achievement.
Yeah, that is going to be celebrated long and hard by the family. The season continues at Sebring International. little bit of a break for these guys when they come back in March for the 12 hours weekend, and then it's off to Barber Motorsport Park, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, VIR, in August, and then the season will finish at Road Atlanta at the Petit Le Mans weekend. I think it's been a success from the tweets and the social media that we've had from our live audience around the world. This new format seems to have worked. Jeremy Shaw, a success for you? Very much so, and look how many people were in the stands all the way, in the infield there throughout the whole race. Absolutely tremendous event, I think that was, and it bodes really, really well for the future of this category. There's been some sort of little bit of growing pains perhaps with the move to LMP3. I think it's a really smart move to have these longer distance races. It makes it more of a sort of proper progression toward the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. That's what many of the, particularly the younger drivers here, want to do, even some of the gentleman drivers as well. So I think it's fantastic, it's great. I saw Jay Howard this morning, former Indianapolis 500 contender, Indy Lights champion. He is going to be bringing a couple of cars to run in this championship before too long, including one that he'll be co-driving one of them as well. It's all good news for this IMSA Prototype Lights Championship presented by Mazda. The Scouts of America event here, LMP3 clearly, as Jeremy said, has been a big success. What I was impressed with particularly was the Mazda Prototype Challenge cars, many of which were driven single-handedly. 1 hour 45 seems to be the right amount of time for that as well. It is. It's the perfect stint length, and when you consider that the drivers have to get out of the cars, come back over the wall, it gives everybody a chance to catch their breath, to re-evaluate what's happening in the race, and then get back in the car and go at it again. And for the scouts that are here this weekend, they're going to look at these cars and see some of the youngsters. Look at Roman DeAngelis winning this race and think, I can do this in a few years. Yeah, not very many years for many of them. And in the NPC cars, there was some doubt, is this race going to be too long for those cars? Because we've had some mechanical problems in the past, but no, virtually all of them finished there. And a good run by the car number 28 there for Bart Wolff and Tazeo Otis to come through and finish on the podium behind Robert Masson and Stuart Retty, who finished in second place. So I think it's been just a great event all around, a super way to start this new season. A success then, as proclaimed from the IMSA broadcast booth, and certainly from the response from everyone here at Daytona International Speedway. We'll be back doing it all again when this championship, the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda, reconvenes over the weekend of St. Patrick's Day at Sebring International Raceway, just down the road here at Florida, in Florida, should I say. So Ligier, Norma, Ligier at the top of LMP3. My thanks to Jeremy Shaw and to Shea Adam. I'm John Hindorf, reminding you that every race this season that is part of an IMSA WeatherTech weekend will be live across the world, and we'll have the IMSA radio crew on site calling the action for you. And if it's as it has been here, I think we're in for a cracking season of IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda, and it'll all be live here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV.
The GT Daytona class competes with production models that utilize the global FIA GT3 specification. With a Pro-Am driver combination, the GTD cars don't offer the same aerodynamics and power as the GTLM class, but have 450 horsepower and are capable of speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. the hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
The Prototype class has an all-pro driver lineup and the fastest and most technologically advanced cars in North America, including the Daytona Prototype International, or DPI. Prototype cars have 450 to 600 horsepower and are capable of reaching speeds of over 200 miles per hour.
GTLM class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari. Porsche. BMW. Corvette. Ford. Racing at its finest.